Do you ever stop to think about what it looks like to love like Jesus? Every time I think about this, I always get brought back to what the pastor by the name of Derek Prince once said, and that was, if you've made your mind up to love, nobody can stop you. They can say all kinds of negative things about you. They can be mean to you. They can be malicious. Doesn't matter. You're going to love them anyways. No one can stop you from loving. Jesus was the perfect example of this. Think about Jesus' life here on earth, the time that he spent here on earth. It wasn't always easy. He wasn't liked all the time. Think about leading up to the crucifixion. Jesus was tortured. He was beaten. He was abused. People were spitting on him. He was hated. Yet that didn't stop him from loving. He still loved those same people, regardless of what they did. Now, if we're followers of Christ, if Jesus is our Lord, then we need to show and live with this kind of love. In Matthew, we were given a new commandment. And that's in Matthew 22:34-40. It says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second like it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depends all the law and the prophets." Again, in John 15:12, it says, "This is my command, love each other in the same way I have loved you. There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend." Love is not a choice, it is a commandment. We need to love the same way that Jesus loved, and that's living a selfless life and putting first the good of others. This is not an option. It's not a recommendation. Jesus didn't suggest that we do this. He commanded us to do this. So what happens if we don't live our lives in this manner? We're simply disobeying God. Now, in today's world, it's rare for people to see this kind of love. The world is so accustomed to seeing selfishness, self-seeking people that take and don't know how to give. The world desperately needs this kind of love. And you don't have to go very far to find someone who's in need. Jesus loved the world so much that he laid down his life for all of humanity. Jesus' life was the ultimate sacrifice for our salvation. This type of love, it doesn't come easy. You got to put some work into this, right? But it means living a selfless, unselfish life and putting the good of others before yours. Now, this is a big sacrifice that we have to make. There's a great verse in Philippians that I love. I always love reading, and it's in chapter 3, and Paul's praying. And in verse 10, while Paul's praying, his prayer is that I may know him, Jesus, and the power of his resurrection, and may share his sufferings, becoming like him in death. And I want to put an emphasis on the part where he says, may share his sufferings. Another way we can look at this is to have compassion. Now, the definition of compassion is sympathetic pity and concern for the suffering or misfortunes of others. You can literally translate this to say, to suffer together. Now, the Bible or the Gospels are filled with accounts where Christ had compassion for everyone that he came in contact with. Matthew 9:36, it says, Jesus saw the crowd. He had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Again, in another record, Jesus was healing a man with leprosy. It says Jesus was moved with compassion in Mark 1:41. He reached out and touched him. He said, I am willing, be healed. If we were to love like Christ did, then we need to have the same compassion that he had for everyone. We need to suffer as Christ did. This is a life dedicated to walking like Christ, to give yourself up as a living sacrifice to God. Now, this doesn't mean we have to give our lives or lay down our life for someone, but it does mean that our life has to be fully at God's disposal, to do his good will, to be available and willing to obey God whatever he asks. This is a big step. It does require a lot of work, but it's going to take us to a whole new level in our relationship with God. And whether we do this in a perfect manner or not, doesn't change the fact that God still loves you. His favor is for you. But if we can live our lives this way, if we can live our lives in this manner, what that does is we're going after God's heart. We're seeking what is acceptable and pleasing to Him. And this is our purpose. This is what God is waiting for from us. I like to see this as like a proud parent. When I think about this, I see God just with a big smile on His face because we just did something that was so pleasing to Him, and He's so happy. And that's what I'm after. I'm after God's heart. And I hope you are too. God bless you.